What's up, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Cheers Reviews. I'm your host, Jimmy, and today we are having a jazz bass shootout. That's right, we're having a look at two awesome jazz basses from the Squier Classic Vibe range, and we are going to dive into a blow-by-blow comparison and to hopefully determine a winner between the two. In the red corner, we have got the Squier Classic Vibe 70's Jazz Bass, and in the blue corner, we have got the Squier Classic Vibe 60's Jazz Bass. Jumping into specs, we've got a two-piece soft maple body on the 70's Jazz Bass and a poplar body on the 60's Jazz Bass. Both have a scale length of 34 inches. Both also have a maple neck with a maple fretboard on the 70's Jazz Bass with those beautiful black block inlays, and an Indian laurel fretboard on the 60's Jazz Bass with those pearloid dot inlays. Both of these basses also have the same Fender designed Alnico single coil pickups with the same controls, with a volume dial each with an overall tone dial. As you'd expect, both of these basses come in around the same price, most commonly found for about 579 Aussie dollary-doos. I've been lucky enough to review both of these basses, and let me tell you, both of them are very impressive examples of the jazz bass. So if you haven't checked them out yet, I'm gonna leave a link in the description below and the iCards above. But for now, we've got a fair bit to unpack, so let's get into it. Round one, feel. Something that's very common within the Squier Classic Vibe range is that they are built for comfort and they are very easy to play instruments. Let me tell you, these two jazz basses are no exception to that. Both basses sport the slim, tinted, glossy neck and that signature offset waist body of the jazz basses. Now, the 60's Jazz Bass is super light, coming in at only 3.5 kilograms. It's truly my shoulder's best friend, especially during those really long sets. But on the other hand, that 70's Jazz Bass, most likely due to that beautiful soft maple body, comes in at around 5 kilograms. And of course, don't get me wrong, it's not the heaviest bass in the world. There's definitely heavier out there, but side by side, next to the 60's Jazz Bass, it definitely feels a lot heavier. All things considered, they're both still quite comfortable basses, but for this round, it's a clear win for the 60's Squier Classic Vibe Jazz Bass. Round two, Versatility. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're probably a fan of jazz basses in general, and guess what? So am I. And one of the things that I truly love about the jazz bass is just how versatile they are between those two single coil pickups. Having a volume dial for each pickup allows you to blend in and out each of those pickups and get a variety of different tones. And as mentioned in the specs, both of these basses sport the same Fender designed Alnico pickups, and honestly, they do punch above their weight for the price tag. And when I sat down to write this episode, I was really hoping to find a key difference between the two basses, and let me tell you, between the two different tone woods that they use, there is a big difference in tone. We're gonna have a bit of a jam soon, so hopefully you can hear the difference then, but what I noticed is that although there is a difference between the two basses, sonically and characteristically, they both can do the same thing, just a little bit differently. I hope that makes sense, but for this round, I'm gonna have to call it a draw. Round three, sound. Without much further ado, let's see how they sound. Alright, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Yes, we have just listened to two fantastic basses. And don't get me wrong, I do love precision basses so much, but every single time I sit down and play a jazz bass, I'm just reminded of how versatile they really are. There's just so many great tones that you can pull from them. As mentioned earlier, one of the key differences between the two basses is the material that they use in the body. The 60s Classic Vibe Jazz Bass has a poplar body, and the 70s Classic Vibe Jazz Bass has a two-piece soft maple body. And yes, the 70s Jazz Bass might weigh more, but what you gain in weight, you get back in tone tenfold. Soft maple is a fairly breathy wood which softens up those MIDI honks that are usually present in a jazz bass, and as well it boosts those bottom ends and tightens up those top end trebles too, which is a really good thing, especially in a bass in this price range. Paired with the maple fretboard, I found that it responded really well to the different styles of playing, which is exactly what you want out of your bass. Don't get me wrong, the 60s jazz bass sounded really good, but the 70s Classic Vibe Jazz Bass sounded excellent, which is why it is the winner of this round. Round 4, value. Check with your local dealer for pricing, but I found that both of these basses most commonly are found for 579 Aussie dollary dues. It wasn't that long ago where a budget like that wouldn't really get you very far. In fact, my first ever bass wasn't too far off that price tag, and let me tell you, it was a fast stone's throw away in regards to quality from either of those basses. In saying that though, the fit and finish on the 70s jazz bass does stand out slightly above the 60s Classic Vibe Jazz Bass. I feel like soft maple is a great choice for the body and is fairly uncommon in basses around this price range. Whereas the poplar body in the 60s Jazz Bass, although still quite a good choice as a tone wood, I find to be quite common, especially in budget-friendly basses. And on top of that as well, I think that the black block inlays and the binding on the 70s Jazz Bass really tie in the whole 70s vibe thing really well and kind of sets it off, giving it a bit more of a premium feel. So another tough one, but it's a win for the Classic Vibe 70s Jazz Bass. Final round, looks. Alright, we are nearing the end of the Squier Classic Vibe Jazz Bass Shootout, and I'm sure that we can all agree that both of these basses look fantastic. Squier have done such a great job to preserve some of the design cues from the 60s and the 70s. I love the period correct grooved saddle bridge on the 60s Jazz Bass. I love the oversized headstock logo on the 70s Jazz Bass, and there's a lot to love with either of these. The 60s Jazz Bass is available in 3 different colors. You've got the Daphne Blue, Black, and 3-tone Sunburst. All of those colors are paired with a beautiful tortoiseshell pickguard. And the 70s Jazz Bass is also available in 3 different colors. You've got Natural, Black, and 3-tone Sunburst. All of these coming with a 3-ply black pickguard. Now, all of these colors are absolutely correct to each of the eras, and I truly love how the Daphne Blue looks on the 60s Jazz Bass. It's really an uncommon color, especially around this price range. In saying that, if you've been following this channel, you would know how much I love basses with a natural finish, especially when they're paired with a black pickguard. I don't know why, it's just one of my favorites. And the finish on the 70's Jazz Bass is just superb as well. The grain of the soft maple looks fantastic, and I think that the high gloss finish sets it off really well. And yes, paired with a black pickguard, of course I'm gonna love it, but I also love the black block inlays and the binding, which I also mentioned before. So although it's a solid effort from the 60's Jazz Bass, I'm gonna have to call it another win for the 70's Classic Vibe Jazz Bass. So in summary, for feel, I've chosen the Squier Classic Vibe 60's Jazz Bass because of that lightweight body. For versatility, I've called it a draw because they're both really versatile basses. They're just a little bit different is all. For sound, I've chosen the 70's Jazz Bass because of that beautiful rounded tone, defined top end and boosted low end. For value, I've chosen the 70's Jazz Bass again just because of that nice fit and finish with the binding black block inlays. And as a result, it snagged the win for the looks, and also having that beautiful natural finish and black pickguard, it's just my personal favorite.
And there you have it, folks. The winner of today's shootout is the Squier Classic Vibe 70's Jazz Bass.
And in saying that, everything we've spoken about today is purely subjective, and you might love the original classic looks of the 60's Classic Vibe Jazz Bass, so that could be a winner today. But anyway, thank you so much once again for coming with me to check out these two awesome Squier Classic Vibe Jazz Basses. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps other people see this content. And if you want to see weekly bass related videos, feel free to smash that subscribe button down below. But until next week, keep on rocking, and I'll see you next time.